Have you ever wanted to say something but held back, only to realize later that silence was the best response? What if I told you that sometimes the most powerful move isn't to react, but to let karma do its work? Today we'll explore 7 situations where staying silent is the ultimate power move, according to Stoic philosophy. Stick around, because the last one will change how you deal with regrets forever. 1. When someone lies about you. We've all been there. Someone spreads a lie about us, twisting the truth to serve their own agenda. It's frustrating, right? But let's step back and look at this through the lens of Stoic wisdom. Imagine this. You walk into work one morning only to hear whispers. Someone is spreading a false rumor that you stole their idea, taking credit for something you never claimed as your own. Instantly, your pulse quickens. Your first instinct: defend yourself. Confront them. Set the record straight. After all, why should you let a lie go unchecked? But then take a step back and consider this. What if reacting only makes things worse? What if the most powerful response isn't retaliation, but silence? Most people react immediately, launching into damage control, desperately trying to convince everyone of their innocence. They engage in frantic explanations, counter-accusations, and emotional appeals, hoping to set the record straight. But does this approach ever truly work? More often than not, it fuels the fire. It magnifies the lie, giving the liar even more attention and credibility. Before you know it, you've been drawn into a battle that only serves to drain your energy and damage your peace of mind. Instead, consider the Stoic approach. Remain composed, stay silent, and let the falsehood collapse under its own weight. Lies have short lifespans, truth always prevails, and time has a way of revealing it without your intervention. The less you react, the more powerful your silence becomes. Marcus Aurelius reminds us, if anyone can refute me, show me I'm making a mistake or looking at things from the wrong perspective, I'll gladly change. This philosophy speaks volumes in moments of false accusations. Why engage in an argument when the truth is an unstoppable force that requires no defense? A strong reputation is not built in a single day, nor is it dismantled by a single lie. Instead of scrambling to control the narrative, trust in your actions, your integrity, and your long-standing credibility. Over time, people recognize authenticity, and deception naturally unravels. The truth will surface, as it always does, without the need for unnecessary confrontation. A friend of mine once dealt with this at work. He was accused of being lazy, despite consistently working overtime. At first, he felt the urge to defend himself, to call out the liar, to demand justice. But then he paused. Instead of reacting, he chose silence. Days turned into weeks, and all of a sudden, the truth began to reveal itself. The boss eventually checked work logs, uncovering the real story. The liar's words lost their weight, and my friend's integrity remained intact. Without a single argument, without a single confrontation, the truth spoke louder than any defense ever could. By staying silent, you show strength, not weakness. Let time and evidence clear your name. The less you react, the less power the lie holds. 2. When someone betrays your trust. Betrayal stings. When someone you trust breaks that bond, the natural urge is to confront them, to demand answers. But what if silence was the real answer? Think about this. You confided in a friend, trusting them with something deeply personal. You believed they would keep your secret safe, just as you would for them. But then, to your dismay, you hear your private words from someone else. Your stomach drops, your heart races, and frustration builds inside you. How could they do this? Why would they betray your trust? Your mind races. Should you confront them? Should you demand an explanation? Should you cut them off immediately? Or should you step back and assess the bigger picture? After all, does reacting impulsively serve any purpose, or does it only add fuel to the fire? What if instead of engaging in a confrontation, you simply let your silence be the loudest response? Most people in this situation would feel compelled to call out the betrayal, leading to heated arguments, denials, excuses, and ultimately even more broken trust. The instinct to seek justice, to make them admit their mistake, is strong. However, a Stoic knows that betrayal says far more about the betrayer than the betrayed. Instead of wasting energy demanding an apology or trying to force them to see their wrongdoing, observe. Let their actions speak for themselves. By choosing silence, you allow them to sit with their guilt. You rob them of the opportunity to twist the story, to shift the blame, to manipulate emotions. Your silence makes them uncomfortable. It forces them to reflect, to realize the gravity of their actions, and ultimately, to reveal their true nature to others without you having to say a word. In time, their own actions will either correct their course or alienate them further. Either way, you win by not engaging. Epictetus once said, "If someone succeeds in provoking you, realize that your mind is complicit in the provocation." In other words, we are only affected by betrayal if we allow ourselves to be. The Stoics believe that emotions should not control us, but rather we should control our emotions. Instead of retaliating or engaging in a futile argument, take a step back. Distance yourself from those who cannot be trusted. Let your absence and indifference be the real punishment. Without your reaction, without your energy feeding into their game, they lose all power over you. I once had a business partner who I believed had my back. We had worked together for years and I trusted him with important deals. Then one day I discovered he had gone behind my back, making secret deals without my knowledge, cutting me out of opportunities that should have been shared. At first I felt a mix of anger, betrayal, and disappointment. The urge to confront him was overwhelming. But then I stopped and asked myself, what would I gain from arguing? Would my words change who he was? Instead of engaging in a fight, I chose a different path. I didn't confront him. I didn't send an angry email. I simply moved on. I built new connections, strengthened my relationships with honest people, and let my success speak for itself. Within months, his reputation caught up with him. Others saw his disloyalty, and soon he found himself without the partnerships he had relied on. Without me having to lift a finger, karma did its work. Silence is a message in itself. It says, I see what you did, but I refuse to give you the satisfaction of a reaction. It sends a clear boundary, one that protects your peace and allows karma to take its course. The less you engage, the more they are left alone to face their own consequences. And in the end, that is far more powerful than any confrontation. 3. When someone insults you. Insults are easy to throw, but responding to them is a choice. What if the best way to win is not to play? Picture this. You're at a lively party, enjoying yourself, when suddenly someone makes a snide remark about your job, your beliefs, or even your appearance. At first, you brush it off, thinking they might be joking. But then, the room falls silent, eyes turning toward you, anticipating your reaction. In that moment, you feel a rush of emotions: frustration, embarrassment, maybe even anger. Your instinct screams at you to respond, to put them in their place. But wait, what if instead of retaliating, you chose to say nothing? What if your silence carried more weight than any words ever could? Most would engage immediately, firing back with a sharp insult of their own, escalating the conflict in an attempt to regain control of the situation. After all, when someone disrespects you, shouldn't you stand up for yourself? Shouldn't you put them in their place? That's the instinctual reaction many of us have. But here's the thing: reacting emotionally gives power to the insulter. It shows them that their words have affected you, that they have successfully gotten under your skin. And once they know they have that power over you, they'll use it again and again. But what if you chose a different path? Stoicism teaches us that insults only have as much weight as we allow them to carry. If we do not react, if we refuse to acknowledge their words as important, their power over us disappears. Instead of engaging, let your silence be your shield. When you respond with indifference, when you refuse to take the bait, the insulter is left standing alone with their words, deprived of the reaction they sought. Over time, they will realize that their attempts to provoke you are futile, and that in itself is the greatest victory. Seneca reminds us, a wise man is not disturbed by insult. This timeless principle underscores the power of self-control in the face of provocation. In other words, when someone directs harsh words or mocking statements at you, it is not the insult itself that matters, but your response, or lack thereof, that holds the real power. By refusing to react, you effectively strip the insult of all its force, leaving it empty and powerless. Indeed, your silence acts like a mirror, reflecting their negativity back onto them. They grow frustrated, realizing they have gained nothing from the insult, no validation or reaction to feed upon. Meanwhile, you remain composed, preserving your inner tranquility and showing through your silence that their words mean little to you. Ironically, the less you respond, the more they recognize your strength, and that in many ways is more powerful than any witty comeback you might have delivered. A friend of mine, a doctor, was attending a social gathering when someone made a dismissive remark, calling him just another overpaid professional. At first, the room grew quiet, as if anticipating a heated response. Many in his position would have fired back, defending their hard work, long hours and years of study. But instead of reacting, he chose a different approach. He simply smiled, took a sip of his drink, and turned away, engaging in a completely different conversation. The insulter, expecting validation or conflict, was left awkwardly standing there, exposed in their own insecurity. With just a moment of silence and a composed demeanor, my friend had demonstrated that words only have power if you let them. Silence is strength. When insults don't affect you, they lose their meaning. 4. When they play the victim. Some people avoid responsibility by playing the victim. But what if silence exposed their act better than words ever could? Imagine this. You're working hard on a project, ensuring every detail is perfect. But then, out of nowhere, a colleague starts pointing fingers, blaming everyone but themselves for missed deadlines and mistakes. They twist reality, playing the victim, hoping to gain sympathy while avoiding accountability. Frustrating, isn't it? At first, you might feel the urge to step in, defend yourself, and set the record straight. But here's the thing. Does engaging with them actually solve anything? Or does it just give them the attention they crave? What if the best way to expose their behavior is through silence? Many feel the need to correct the story, defend the truth, or argue. They might believe that by challenging every distortion, they can protect their reputation or restore fairness. However, doing so often gives the other person exactly what they want: more attention and a stage for their narrative. Instead of dampening the flames, it inadvertently fans them. The best approach: remain composed and say nothing, allowing their pattern to unravel over time. By refusing to engage, you remove the fuel that keeps their story alive, compelling them to confront their own words and actions. Marcus Aurelius advised, "Waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be. Be one." Rather than expending energy in debates or attempts to correct every misconception, focus on living your values consistently. If others insist on distorting reality, let their actions speak for themselves. Over time, authenticity shines through, and the truth emerges without the need for heated confrontations. A past co-worker of mine always blamed others for his mistakes. Every time a project went wrong, he pointed fingers, shifting responsibility onto teammates, external circumstances, or even bad luck. At first, people around him engaged, trying to defend themselves, correcting his false accusations, and getting drawn into pointless arguments. But as time passed, something interesting happened. Leadership started noticing the pattern, not because anyone argued with him, but because the truth became undeniable. His repeated excuses lost credibility, and his inability to take accountability became obvious to everyone around him. Without a single direct confrontation, his own behavior exposed him, proving that sometimes silence is the most powerful response. By staying silent, you refuse to validate their false victimhood. Sooner or later, karma will do the talking. 5. When they ignore your worth. If someone fails to see your value, should you fight for their recognition? Or should you let your actions do the talking? You dedicate countless hours to your job, putting in extra effort, staying late, and going the extra mile. Yet no one seems to notice. You pour your heart into relationships, always being there for others, offering support and kindness, but appreciation never follows. At first, frustration builds. You wonder why your hard work and commitment go unrecognized. You feel the urge to speak up, to demand acknowledgement, to remind others of your worth. But then pause for a moment. What if the most powerful way to prove your value isn't through words, but through silence? What if, instead of seeking validation, you let your actions speak louder than any plea for recognition ever could? Most would complain, seek validation, or even try harder, driven by a strong desire to prove themselves. Yet a Stoic understands that genuine worth isn't proven through words. It's shown through consistent actions and unwavering integrity. Rather than expending all your energy trying to win over people who refuse to see your contributions, focus on perfecting your craft, honing your skills, and letting your achievements speak for themselves. In doing so, you embody quiet excellence, allowing your work and dedication to shine without the need for applause. Meanwhile, instead of chasing recognition, learn to detach from those who fail to appreciate you. After all, pouring effort into receiving praise from those who remain indifferent often leads to frustration, whereas investing in growth and self-improvement yields lasting fulfillment. Epictetus once said, "If you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid." In other words, genuine growth often requires humility, the willingness to let others underestimate you while you quietly elevate your skills and character. Moreover, the truly wise do not chase after applause or external validation. Instead, they stay committed to their principles, maintaining a clear conscience and a steady course, regardless of whether anyone is watching. Over time, such consistent integrity naturally garners respect. In a world eager for quick praise, demonstrating unwavering commitment without fanfare proves not only your competence, but also your resilience. Ultimately, recognition may come, but the Stoic approach teaches us to find fulfillment in the virtue of our actions themselves, rather than in the fleeting approval of others. I once had a colleague who was constantly overlooked for promotions, despite his unwavering dedication and exceptional work ethic. He showed up early, stayed late, and consistently exceeded expectations. Yet time and time again, management failed to recognize his efforts. At first, frustration gnawed at him. He contemplated speaking up, demanding the recognition he rightfully deserved. But then, he made a conscious decision. Rather than seek validation from those who refused to see his worth, he would let his work speak for itself. Day by day, he continued to excel, maintaining his composure and professionalism. Then, without warning, an unexpected opportunity arose. A competitor company, impressed by his reputation and undeniable results, extended an offer for a far better role, one with higher pay, greater respect, and the appreciation he had long deserved. Without a word of complaint or confrontation, he walked away, leaving behind the company that had failed to see his value. In the end, his silence was not just a response, it was a statement, proving that true worth is never dependent on external validation. If someone doesn't value you, walk away. Your silence is more powerful than begging for appreciation. 6. When they try to provoke you, people who seek to provoke you are looking for a reaction. But what if the most powerful response is no response at all? Imagine this. You find yourself in a heated discussion, and suddenly someone deliberately throws an offensive remark your way. They mock your beliefs, ridicule your choices, or make a sharp comment designed to get under your skin. At first, you feel the surge of anger rise within you. Your pulse quickens, your mind races, and every fiber of your being screams for you to fire back with a cutting response. After all, why should you let them disrespect you? But then, pause for a moment. What if reacting emotionally only plays into their hands? What if the most powerful response isn't retaliation, but complete unwavering silence? In that instant, you have a choice. Give them what they want or take control by refusing to engage. Most people take the bait, reacting emotionally and escalating the situation. In that moment, they let anger or frustration guide their words, handing power to the provocateur. But what does that truly achieve? By lashing out, they inadvertently confirm that the offensive remark has done its job, granting the other person the satisfaction of having unsettled them. However, a Stoic knows that genuine self-control is the real victory. Instead of giving in to rage or engaging in a verbal battle, they remain composed. By choosing silence, you effectively strip the provocateur of the power they crave. Your quiet confidence makes it evident that their words have no real impact on you. Over time, they realize their attempts to rattle you are futile, and the tension dissipates on its own, leaving you firmly in control of your emotions. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." In essence, he's reminding us that our reactions are within our control, even if the external world isn't. Provocation only succeeds if we give it permission to affect us. By standing firm in silence, we deny the provocateur the emotional reaction they crave. Indeed, their barbs lose momentum when they meet unwavering composure, leaving them with nothing to fuel their attempt at manipulation. Over time, this approach not only preserves our peace of mind, but also showcases an inner strength that few can shake. A friend of mine was once insulted during a high-stakes business negotiation. His opponent, sensing an opportunity to rattle him, made a snide remark about his expertise, questioning his ability to deliver results. The air in the room shifted. All eyes turned to my friend, waiting to see if he would bite back. At first, I could see the flicker of irritation in his expression, the natural impulse to defend his reputation. But instead of engaging, he did something unexpected. He paused. He took a deep breath, looked directly at his opponent, and said absolutely nothing. The room grew tense, the silence stretching long enough for discomfort to settle in. His opponent, expecting a defensive reaction, suddenly appeared unsure of himself. He shifted in his seat, his confidence wavering. By refusing to react, my friend maintained complete control of the situation. Without a single word, he communicated self-assurance, composure, and an unshakable confidence in his own worth. In the end, the deal went in his favor, not because he had the sharpest comeback, but because his silence spoke volumes. His opponent, realizing his attempt to provoke had failed, lost the psychological edge. Without a battle, my friend had already won. Silence isn't weakness, it's discipline. When provoked, remember that responding is a choice. Sometimes the best way to win is to simply not play the game. 7. When they regret losing you. Sometimes the best response to someone who let you go, disrespected you, or underestimated your value is silence. What if letting karma handle it is the most satisfying closure you'll ever get? Think about this. You were in a relationship, romantic or professional, where you gave your absolute best. You showed up, you supported, you invested time and effort. Yet despite all that, they failed to recognize your worth. They dismissed you, convinced they would be better off without you. At first it stung. You questioned yourself, replaying moments in your mind, wondering what went wrong. But then time passed. You grew, you moved on, you found clarity. And then, almost like clockwork, they returned. This time, however, they weren't so sure of their decision. Regret weighed on them, their words filled with nostalgia, longing, and apologies. Now you stand at a crossroads. Should you open the door and let them back in? Or should your silence speak volumes, sending a message more powerful than any words ever could? Most people either lash out or let them back in too easily, driven by a surge of emotions that cloud their better judgment. They might feel the need to express their anger or to forgive too soon in hopes of recapturing what was lost. But a Stoic understands that allowing someone to return without consequences is a disservice to oneself. Instead of reacting with anger or offering unconditional forgiveness, choose silence. Let them sit with their regret, reflecting on their actions, and the significance of what they have lost. Over time, they may come to terms with the consequences of their behavior, realizing that actions truly do speak louder than words. By not immediately lashing out or granting instant reprieve, you preserve your integrity and self-respect, making it clear that your boundaries cannot be violated without repercussions. Ultimately, this measured response compels them to confront their mistakes on their own, fostering personal growth and a deeper understanding of the impact of their choices. Marcus Aurelius reminds us, "The best revenge is to be unlike him who performed the injury." In other words, a life well lived stands as a far more potent statement than any overt attempt at retaliation. Rather than proving your worth through words, prove it through action by continuously moving forward, thriving, and leaving the past behind without a second thought. By focusing on self-growth and authentic fulfillment, you naturally demonstrate that their dismissal no longer wields influence over you. Over time, they'll come to realize that your happiness and progress serve as the ultimate testament to your value, not their fleeting judgments or regrets. In this way, you uphold your dignity, maintaining the high ground and freeing yourself from the emotional weight that seeking revenge could otherwise impose. A friend of mine was let go from a job unfairly, blindsided by a decision he had no control over. At first, frustration and self-doubt crept in. He questioned whether he had done something wrong, whether he should have fought back, whether he should have tried to reason with his employer. But instead of dwelling on it, he made a choice. He would not let their decision define him. With quiet determination, he channeled his energy into self-improvement. He upskilled, expanded his professional network, and poured himself into new opportunities. Slowly but surely, his hard work paid off. Not only did he land a position at a much better company, but he also found himself in an environment where his contributions were truly valued. Then, as if scripted by fate, a year later, his former boss reached out. The company had struggled without him. They realized they had let go of someone who had been a key player in their success. Their message was filled with regret, a subtle attempt to rekindle the professional relationship they had so carelessly discarded. And my friend, he didn't even reply. There was no need. His silence was the loudest response he could have given. His success spoke for itself, proving that sometimes the best way to respond to those who once overlooked you is to let them watch you thrive from afar. When someone regrets losing you, they are finally seeing what you always knew: your value. But by then, it's no longer your problem. Silence is your final statement. You've moved on, and they must live with their regret. Karma has a way of handling things better than we ever could. By staying silent in these moments, we allow life to reveal the truth. The Stoics knew that not every battle is worth fighting. Sometimes the best move is to let go and let karma do its work. Which of these situations have you faced? Let me know in the comments. And if you found value in this, consider subscribing for more Stoic wisdom. See you in the next one.